Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Justice for Dad at the Hands of a Narcissist, Episode 3. I am Brenda Woodruff. My co-host is Susan Woodruff. Hello, Susan.
Hi, Brenda. First of all, I want to talk about the elder laws that we're trying to get changed in New York State. And I did a little research today and discovered that there is a group out there that has gotten funding to help protect the elderly, which is great because now they're getting the funding. But what we really need to do is get the laws changed. All the money in the world is not going to help protect people like my dad, who had been abused by my brother David and his wife Lori for years. And so we really need to get the laws changed. What we're asking our listeners to do today is to reach out to some senators here, and Brenda has that information for you.
Yes, hello. They're looking for some extra support to help. It's an elder justice funding program, and they need all the help they can get for this funding to keep the crucial funding. The more voices, the better. It'll help reinforce the need for this funding to protect the older adults and people with disabilities. So you can call or write. There's a few names here that they have listed. Majority Leader Senator Schumer. There's a Finance Chair Senator Wyden, W-Y-D-E-N. And the committee list of all senators is also available online where you can reach out to them. And that's under NewYorkElderAbuse.org/law. The funding, basically, we'd like to see the law change first or whatever, but if they get the law in place, it has to have the support behind it to get it going, because you're going to need extra people and extra staff and extra support people to actually come out and help protect these individuals. So especially if you have a concerned one in the family that you want to take care of, like for instance we are here with this going on with David and Lori, please feel free to write. Susan?
Thank you, Brenda. Most definitely, go online, go to that website that Brenda just mentioned, and the more people, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that people really don't understand the amount of elder abuse, neglect, emotional, and most definitely, go online, go to that website that Brenda just mentioned, and the more people, I guess what I'm trying to say here is that people really don't understand the amount of elder abuse, neglect, emotional and verbal abuse that is right in your backyard, right in this state. There's so much of it. My dad has put up with the verbal and emotional abuse from my brother since 2012, since my mom passed away, and we had mentioned that before. So we're begging people to please help us. We need to get these laws changed. We're going to be writing to as many senators, politicians that we can to talk about getting, these laws changed. They're stating, like, when we asked for help last year and the year before, and because David and Lori has pretty much done everything except for physically hit. So we're talking about emotional and verbal abuse, and because it's not criminal in New York State, that nothing could be done. Matter of fact, we couldn't even get somebody in here to help get them removed so my dad didn't have to continue living with them. So it's really disheartening to know that New York State is one of 7 states that does not provide protection against elder abuse here. And New York is one of those states, so we really need to get that changed. Thank you.
Okay, moving on a little bit forward here. One issue that Dad really had was the animals that David had on the farm. The neglect of the animals getting out. They weren't in good conditions, they weren't fed properly. Too many animals, like for instance, too many goats in one pen, way too many overloaded. The major part of it was the goats being out all the time. The fencing was poor. We spoke to them, Dad spoke to them, we spoke to them many times about keep the goats in. The goats would be out and about, they'd be in the road, people would stop, have a problem with the goats in the road. and there's also a wild turkey that would attack people. But anyway, one particular instance with the goats, he probably had like 60 goats in one pen, just so you know this. And he, one day back earlier in summer, the goats basically attacked Dad's aide's car in the driveway and scratched the door out of it pretty much. There was a couple of goats and scratched it up. We knew it was goats because she got home, there it was. She had been here and the goats were all out around her car when she was leaving. So we knew it was the goats. It's happened before. It happened to my car, actually, about 3-4 years ago. And scratched it some damage, but nowhere near the damage it did to the aide's car. Thereafter, we had a discussion with David and spoke to him about the goats and the damage they can do and have done to the aide's car. After some considerable discussions, he agreed to pay for the damage, which was pretty minor as far as cost, but anyway, he agreed to pay for it. So let's take a listen to the discussion we had with David about the goats being out and the concern and Dad's concern and the basic problem we had. David, have a seat. Sure.
No, I'll see.
All right, go ahead.
No, we were just trying. I told him we just want to talk about concern for the animals
yeah.
and stuff, and just kind of like just
Yep.
liability-wise, and you can discuss it.
Yep. Okay. With the goats being out and with the aid, you're going to have to be responsible for that. And you're going to have to probably get rid of the animals, because if those goats get in a road and a car hits it, I get sued, Janet gets sued, Dad gets sued, and you get sued. We lose everything.
If something was bad enough.
I told Bernard I got one over to back around it again. I did have found another place to get out, but
Why do you have 60 goats?
Because a lot of them were babies. They're getting big, and I sell them to pay the taxes.
I understand that, but that thing isn't big enough for them out there. So most of them are all from this year.
Yeah.
And when do you plan on getting rid of them?
Fall, you said maybe in the fall.
I mean, I was here yesterday. They were out. You just don't understand what everybody will lose.
That's what she's concerned with.
And I'm not willing to lose what I've worked my ass off for, because my name's on this property and the insurance is in my name and Janet's name.
I was telling them, like, it's about, they've been there for years. Like, but I said, but people are more sue happy and they do anything now and they go for big bucks.
10 years from now, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been that big of a deal. You just can't have these animals out, okay? I'm going to let that one go. You can't have them out.
Well, I mean, they're just out. I mean, they're really just out on the
David,
property.
if somebody pulls in this driveway, well, like the aid, or I can't tell you how many times turkeys in the past, I've got scars from turkeys, so you need to contain them or get rid of them.
I told him, by the way, the estimates tomorrow.
Yep.
He said, let him see it, whatever, and he'll probably just pay it, whatever.
She's going to email it to me, and then I'll email it to Brenda, and then she can give you a copy.
Print it off.
All right. She said that she's going to do that, and she was going to this place because they're reasonable.
What about, you know?
No, they don't have no clue.
Oh.
I have no clue. So, all right. So are we clear on that? Just so you understand what it's not
concern.
The concern that if one person gets hurt, the car, how much is it going to cost you? Is it worth it? If Dad loses an aid, they're not going to send anymore.
There's nobody available right now. I told him that.
And then the animals will have to go, because Dad cannot be without an aid. He can't unless you're the one that wants to bathe them and do everything she does for him, okay? So you got to just take care of it, okay? All right? We good on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, that was our conversation regarding the animals, and David did state that he agreed to pay the damages. He also agreed to keep the animals in their pens or in their fenced-in area. None of that happened. Actually, he managed to end up with more goats and more animals as time went by. And so it became a major problem, and we'll get into some of that a little bit later. Our problems did not end there. Our next set of issues for Dad was that Lori brought a baby goat into the house. So now she has a baby goat couple of cats, and a untrained puppy in the house. Now, we learned from Lori that the reason why she brought the goat into the house is because while the mother was giving birth to the baby, it got trampled to death by all the other goats. So the mother ended up dying, and so the baby was without a mom. Kudos to Lori for wanting to take care of it, but we did keep telling her that there's goat feces all over the house, and it was making Dad sick. And as you know, goats eat everything, they climb on everything, and they poop on everything.
You will also hear at the beginning of this recording when Sue approached Lori on what happened the day that I walked in the house and saw Janet and her boyfriend sitting across the table from Dad with no masks on when it was high COVID and Dad's lungs had an issue. If you recall our little brief moment of that before in the podcast. As you can tell, Lori kind of backpedaled there a little bit. She was right on the porch when I walked in. And to tell you briefly what happened, I walked in the house, I was bringing something to Dad, and I walked in, saw Lori sitting there, and I walked in and I saw Janet. And this might be a little repeat of a previous segment, but as a reminder, walked in, I see Janet across the table and her boyfriend with no mask on across from Dad talking. I simply asked Janet, may I ask you a question? Why aren't you wearing a mask? And before I could even answer anything, she got up and said, that's it, we're out. And they took off out the door. Susan had approached, wanted to hear Lori's side of this story. She was right there on the porch. But in turn, Lori kept denying, well, she really didn't hear anything. She just heard the guy yelling at me. But the guy didn't yell at me until out the door when he was telling me to be quiet. And, well, actually, he told me to shut up. And I took care of that problem too. But she said, that's all she heard. She really didn't hear what was said. But then in turn, when she reiterated the story to David, she really exaggerated the story.
Yeah, didn't she tell David that you came in the house and threw Janet out of the house, her and her boyfriend out of the house for not wearing a mask? But she told me point blank that she didn't hear anything. But apparently she likes to make up stories, and made up a story because you'll see, if you haven't already figured out, Lori likes to stir the pot. She likes to keep everybody mad at each other. She loves the drama, and this is what she has done for a year and a half now. So let's go ahead and take a listen to that conversation. The incident on Friday, was it? In your own words, can you tell me what happened?
What was the age and the
Yeah, no.
No.
When Brenda asked Janet to leave.
What happened? One time I walked in.
All I heard was her boyfriend saying something to you, and that's about it. I didn't hear anything else.
Oh, you didn't hear what Brenda said to her?
I didn't hear what Brenda said at all. Or, not Brenda, Janet. I didn't hear what Janet said at all.
You didn't hear me ask her? I was right there in the thing by the door. I said,
You said something about a mask, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, I asked her.
I didn't hear.
I asked her, hello, can I ask you a question? Why aren't you wearing a mask? She didn't like it.
All hell broke loose.
Yeah, but she liked it. I asked a question, she didn't like it, and she got up and moved.
That's Janet for you.
I didn't hear what he said or anything.
He didn't say nothing then. It was not until he got outside.
Oh.
I'd like to know. I'm sure you know. I just wish you would level with me because what she said.
I have no clue.
What she said to David, or what was said to David.
I don't know. As I said to you, I don't get into this family stuff.
But you are here.
But we're just trying to watch out for Dad.
Yeah.
Didn't get what he's, and then I'm mean and yell at Dad and him.
Yeah.
You know the lies he was saying that day, do you not?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know you weren't going to say anything, but he was downright lying.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's accusing me of lying about something. I didn't even talk to a sheriff before. And by the way, they didn't give a crap about talking to me.
No,
I told them I'd be
because
right back.
they're sick of David.
I come right back, and they went in the dooryard and saw Stan, and Stan goes, no, he doesn't know because they own the property. And he said, my wife takes care of it. And that's it. That's all I want to know.
We care about his dad's safety and that he's taken care of right. David has interfered with that for really, really bad for the last 8 years. Not so bad because Dad could take care of himself, but I would say in the last 2 years,
Last 3 years he's done it.
he has continued to interfere, and that becomes, now that is what's going to become a legal matter. And we can't have that. And the thing of it is, yeah, he's not verbally abusive to Dad since you've been here, but look at all the actions he does. Dave is an angry person. He always has to take it out on somebody. So now, because he can't yell at Dad and verbally abuse him anymore, he's doing well, you see, look at with the table incident and all that. So now he's taking out on me and Brenda. We're done. We're not dealing with it.
No, not happy with Dakota not being trained properly yet. It's just he should have been doing it by now. I don't want to hear her say, but
Speaking of goats, goat cannot be in the house.
Okay.
What you can do is get a couple of heat lamps and put them out in the barn. I'm sure David can build a little thing for him, but for Dad's safety and health, goat cannot stay. It really, for Dad's sake.
we know he's been there with his surgery and stuff, you know.
And I
that should
understand
be-
that, but like I said, if it came down to the goat or Dad, it's all about Dad. Everything that's going on, everything is all about Dad.
Yeah.
Get him out.
He can't be in here.
Get him out.
Hay on the floor. You know how slippery hay is on linoleum floors? This downstairs is Dad's living quarters. It's nobody else's but Dad's. This is Dad's living quarters.
Where I want to get rid of that dog. I am getting so sick of that dog. Between the dog and the cat and
So yeah, we just can't help. Just gotta, when you do things, just think about, is this a good thing for Dad or not? That's the question I think you just need to ask yourself. Okay? Dad should not feel uncomfortable in his own damn house. And that's what David's created. David's created a hostile living environment, and it's got to stop. And he won't listen to anybody. Just think of Dad. Does Dad deserve this? No, he doesn't deserve this. Like, he's not allowed to do anything he wants in his own house. As far as your dog, you got to get a better handle on the dog piss, because it will ruin the floors. I get that you pick it up, but I don't know, you know, I thought he was totally trained, but I guess he's not. But
I thought so too.
because what's going to happen, if you're not here, that dog pisses in front of the toilet, Dad falls,
Slips.
you're going to be...
I'm not here though. I stick him upstairs.
Oh, okay.
I come upstairs.
All right. But you don't want him slipping on...
Oh, yeah.
Because you know who's going to be held accountable? And you don't want that.
Then you will be crying.
Yeah. You know,
I mean, I admit there are a few times where I don't shut the door tight, because David explained to me you have to pick it up and shut it, that he does come down.
Right.
I mean,
But yeah, you just got to please get a handle on that. I worry about that so much.
to get around David, if you tell those tiny little ways.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be that
I
way.
know, but you know, physical therapy wants this and that. It gets
Yeah.
the mind better.
Well, you can always say, and I told her that. That's what you told me.
Yeah.
We don't care how we tell him, whatever.
And nobody's out to get him. We're just trying to get him under control.
And as you notice, his first go-to is 911.
Which is,
And then he
eventually
goes
he's
down
going to
the
get
line.
nailed for
I kept
that.
saying, you hear this?
Yep.
Laura? You heard me. Did or did you not hear him lie?
See, and if Brenda really wanted to, she could do a counter for harassment. And I mean, it's up in the air right now that he's interfering with the well-being of Dad. And he can't do that. He can't interfere, trying to get the aides fired. He can't do that because he's not willing, he's not here, and he's not willing to do what everybody does for him. When Dad got his aide, the first aide, he was so pissed that he called Dad every dirty name in the book and said, "You're just faking it so you get all the attention."
Yeah.
That's cruel. Dad needed an aide, you know, and he's obviously he needs two now. It's just got to stop. I just can't believe he calls the cops every time he gets mad. My God. Who does that?
Our voices raised and boom, and I did. I know I did. Because it was like, it struck a nerve. It's like, geez, I'm trying to fix.
Out of control. He gets out of control.
Yeah, and then they called, and I stood right there, and it's like, and he's going on, she's taking things out of the house, and she lies all the time, and then
well, that's a narcissist really feels that everybody lies to him. All right, so what do you think? Can't make this stuff up. She agreed to remove the goat. previous conversation, she agreed to take care of the dog to make sure it didn't leave feces all over the floor. Told us that, she's going to make sure that Dad's safe. And guess what? Lo and behold, she did not even comply to this at all. She took Dad's safety right out of the equation. And it is just amazing that she literally went and told David, we had a conversation with her. She literally told David that we threatened her. Okay, I don't know where in that conversation we threatened her, but that's the way she is. So, you're going to see a lot more of her conversations with her on all her lies.
Yeah, and she ended up leaving the goat in the house. The goat stayed in there. And then the next story was, even though she agreed to get heat lamps, that we can't take it out there, it's too cold. The goat, she had a name for it, pumpkin spice, I guess it is. Yeah, pumpkin spice had pneumonia, so it could not go out there or she would die. And she even asked me if I was ready to pay the $3,345 vet bill if she did die. And of course I said no.
Okay, so a few weeks later, Goat is still in the house. Dad's getting sicker. And she had a tendency of leaving signs and notes all over the house, which you've already heard some of them. So what we're going to play next, we had a reading of a sign that she had posted around the house regarding why the goat is a good pet. So let's take a listen.
To whom it may concern, my goat Pumpkin Spice Latte was deemed a family pet, not a farm animal, because he is fully vaccinated against any disease a goat could got. He also has been neutered. Horns cannot be removed due to soft skull. We also consulted a pulmonologist. He said that an vaccinated, clean, healthy goat passes no threat to David's father. I also had a Zoom call with my oncologist, and he agreed with the other doctor. I was also advised to get said goat registered as a therapy goat because of his good nature, etc. The judge said he has all right as a dog or cat living in a home. Lori Burns Woodruff.
There you go. Another one of her lies, imagination builder. I don't know, call it what you want. She's going to call all these specialists to say, hey, is it okay if a goat is in the house? But I'm pretty sure she never told them that there was feces all over the house and that it was making Dad sick. All they care about are themselves. We're going to listen to a reading of a text message that Lori sent me in November. And I don't know where she was coming with all of this. She must have told David after our conversation that we threatened to kick him out, which we did not at the time. And that she's trying to fix David. So she knows David has issues, but I think she has many of the same issues. And at this point in time, she has definitely stirred the pot. She has put a wedge between us and David with all her lies. And she just took everything from bad to worse. So let's take a listen.
November 14th, 2020. Another text message from Lori to Sue. Please don't throw him off the house, etc. I'm trying everything in me to fix things about him. Help him. He said he spent 8 months in jail for that issue. I think the world of Dad. I've never had a dad before, or hell, a family to belong to. Thank you both for treating me so well. I'm trying to get him to understood about things. He treats Dad good. I do understand what you're saying, but that was all in the past, wasn't it? We don't have any other place to live or go. Please don't throw him off the farm. I beg you.
Okay, this text message is interesting. Talking about kicking out of the house, please don't kick us out, etc., etc. We never said anything about kicking out of the house. We were trying to get David to be accountable to pay for the goat damage on the car. on the A's car. But Lori, again, stuck her nose in, stirred the pot, got David to realize or think that he doesn't own anything and it's not the goat. Goats didn't do it. A grocery cart did it. Well, if you saw the pictures, you'd 100% agree. It's no grocery cart. But she just was trying to keep things going again and making a big deal over it.
Yeah, that's when Brenda and I and Dad realized that we're going to have problems with her because she takes one situation and she just lies, blows it out of proportion. Like, why is she texting me saying, don't throw us out of the house? First of all, it's not my house. Second of all, it's not my decision to make whether they're in or out of the house. It's my dad's. And my dad hadn't even talked to me about getting them out of the house because he had pretty much just found out that she had moved in. This is just an example of how she likes to stir the pot, telling David that we threatened her and so on and so forth. So this is just the beginning. So yeah, she's been trying to put a wedge in, and her goal was to get David to marry her. Brenda, you remember the first time when we met her? I mean, she didn't even know us. She's bragging how she was going to talk David into marrying her.
Yes, that's quite interesting. It wasn't shortly after that she made a little text going on back and forth about she one day hopes to be David's wife or hopes to be married to David. In the meantime, she didn't want to stick her nose in the family business, which she was anyway, and causing problems. And I might say none of us really saw this coming. It was right there in front of us. She kept doing things and creating a problem and putting capital drama queen DQ, I swear. She just wouldn't stop her shenanigans, made things worse, and David became more aggravated with Susan and I. Just wanted nothing to do with us and was trying to go everything against us. But let's take a listen to this text about her wishing to marry David.
November 27th, 2020 at 10:32 a.m. A text message from Lori to Brenda. I would love to get married to David. I know that he has issues, but I feel he's my soulmate. I was in a relationship, never married, for 12 years. I was constantly beat, ridiculed, etc. I had lost smile, my will to live, etc. Then came David. I fought for 6 months, trying to get his attention. Oh my God, Kathy would pick out the clothes, put me in the scandalous tops to bring him meals. On August 29th, we were bringing the guys dinner, and he asked me to go for a walk. He took my hand. I just about passed out, and we were together ever since. I feel safe with him, so loved, cared about. Yes, at times he drives me crazy. Yes, I keep asking David, are you going to ask me to marry you? And he keeps saying, when I get a moment.
During this time period when Lori was doing her shenanigans here, Dad was declining in his health. He was just beside himself. He didn't know what to do. He did not want her in the house. And I literally asked him one day, I said, Dad, why don't we have a talk with her and tell her that you don't want her here? Because David's behavior is totally getting out of control and she's not helping matters. His response was, and I quote, well, I can't do that. If I ask her to leave, David will start yelling at me and he'll get really, really mean to me, and I can't deal with that right now. I'm too old to fight anymore. Maybe I'll just sit here and keep my mouth shut.
And he was pretty quiet for a few weeks, and I noticed he was getting more quiet, not getting up as much. I'm checking with Lori and David. Yes, I got him up. Then Dad tells me no, he was not up walking, so I would get him up walking. I had a losing ground. He had that new chair, that new lift-up recliner chair we had for him. He wasn't going in as much. I kept receiving texts that Lori and David said that he didn't like it, that he was falling out of it. Yes, that's correct. They said he was falling out of the chair. How you can fall out of a chair, a lift-up recliner, is beyond me, especially when he didn't really get it up all the way as far as lifting it up all the way. We know they just didn't like that chair being in there. You know, the chair, we got it, we purchased it for Dad, and that was the number one downfall of that chair. They didn't like us returning. They wanted control of it. But they just put it aside, and And he kept falling, and nothing was getting better. And I talk to these people, and nothing was going nowhere, and it was going nowhere fast.
You're absolutely right. And it's just so funny that anything that we buy for Dad or anything we do for Dad, David did not want it in the house. We got him the recliner. The dining room table was another big incident. But anything that we did for Dad, that would just make David more angry. He did not like anybody doing anything for Dad because he just didn't want Dad getting any help. He didn't want to help him. So it was just getting so bad.
We were becoming more concerned, and I can't remember if you were here, Susan, or not, but we had a discussion with Lori, and she mentioned, I believe she mentioned about getting a baby monitor because Dad was getting weaker, not as concerned, and she mentioned it. I'll give her credit for that, whatever. Susan went and ordered and got right away a baby monitor. Stan and I came right over and installed it. By then, Susan was gone, back home. And Lori knew this was going on. Lori was well aware of it. She knew we were installing it. I even had just explained to her that you can see the picture, you can see Dad, and you can hear the volume, but he cannot hear you or see you. It's that you can see him from their upstairs quarters. She knew all this, and we weren't gone a half an hour, and I get a phone call from David saying that that's invasion of privacy. If you don't get that thing out of here tonight, I'm calling the troopers. So once again, Lori didn't tell David the truth. Something's missing in the story. She knew all about it, and he acted like it was all spanking new. And again, didn't have any concern for Dad, what the purpose was for. It was for Dad.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like she set you up. It was her idea to get it in. You guys come over, set it up, and then she tells David, "Oh, look what they brought over." And that upset. So she stirred the pot once again, getting David pissed off about the baby monitor when she's the one that requested one. So at this point in time, we don't even know what to do with her. We just don't know what to do. We knew things were going to get really, really bad. We did try to reach out to some agencies. Nobody could help us because it's not that they didn't want to help us. They could not help us because Brendan and I was Dad's advocates, and because he had one, there's no laws in New York State that would prompt any agency to come in here to help my dad. So
right. All about policies.
Yes.
And their hands were tied no matter which route we went. Again, we hit a brick wall. We were feeling more helpless as time went on.
Another thing that I found very, very disturbing about Lori is that she's like David, very, very sneaky. I had come up and visited Dad, and on December 22nd, I left to go home. Right up through Christmas, I kept calling, and Dad would not answer. So I tried to reach out to Brenda to find out what's going on. Wasn't able to successfully get a hold of her. So on Christmas Day, no family members were even able to talk to Dad on Christmas. So Brenda did the day after Christmas, went over, they had the phone unplugged. They blamed it on the dog. Mind you, the dog's been in there for 4 or 5 months, never had a problem. But the next day, the phone was unplugged again. So now what they're trying to do is they're trying to keep me not talking to Dad because they know Dad tells me everything. And they continually kept the phone unplugged. And I found that so disturbing.
Okay, before we get lost in this story, backing up to the goat damage they did to the aide's car, David never did pay for the damage. I begged him every day for several days in a row because there was a deadline of the repair was going to be made, and she had to have the money. And I said, please, because if it's not paid for, the husband gave strict orders of the aide that if it was not paid for, she would not be working as Dad's aide anymore. I explained this to David thoroughly, that in order to keep the aide, we had to pay for the car damage. He never paid for it. Susan, to save Dad's aide, because he would have been without an aide, and it wasn't very long. It wasn't very for a few hours per week that time. She paid for the damage, and therefore she was able to stay. David never said anything word since then or before then. And I might put in one word about the thinking process of these two. The damages were like $430. Okay, that's all it's going to be. Pretty reasonable. Well, she had the idea of submitting it to the insurance company, and there's $1,000 deductible on this policy for anything on the farm. And she's, why don't we submit it to the insurance company, and it's got $1,000 deductible. So then once that happens, I mean, she's got to pay that. I mean, it's $1,000 deductible, but then she said, then we'll pay it and get reimbursed.
Yeah, I remember that. She wanted to pay, she was willing to pay me the $1,000 deductible to give to the insurance company, so the insurance company in turn can write me a check for $430 for the damage. Okay? She's not the brightest bulb in the pack. She don't think things through. She just loves to create chaos. And so with David and Lori together, they're two happy, chaotic people who only think of themselves. During this whole time, since the time Mom died, right up to this very day that we're doing this podcast, not one time did they even ask how Dad's doing, any concerns for Dad, offer to help Dad out. They wouldn't even offer to clean up their own filth in the house that we are still currently working on upstairs. These are the type of people that my poor dad had to deal with and still is dealing with it. Now that you've heard a little bit more about some of the situations that Brenda and I and Dad's had to deal with, we tried to keep most of this away from Dad to keep him so he's not stressed out. We only tell him things that we feel he really needs to know. If he knew half the stuff that they've done, he would be shocked. We keep it away from him as much as we can.
I think that wraps things up, Susan. We want to thank everybody again for listening and coming back, returning to us. Please remember to, if you're interested, help out your loved ones or even the general population in the elder community, to support the funding for the Elder Abuse Fund. You need any questions, need more the names repeated or anything, give us a buzz. Susan will give the contact information, and we'll look forward to hearing you next time.
Thanks, Brenda. Yeah, if you have any